Sit with Lexi B.
Hey fam, welcome back to Sit with Lexi B podcast. My name is Lexi B and I'm so excited to have you here. As all of our listeners know, if you're new, the Sit with Lexi B podcast is dedicated to those life lessons that all of us need to learn in order to live our best lives. And on today's episode, we have Idara. Idara is just everything, okay? She has lived 18,000 lives in the little life that she has lived. All the way from student athlete to Wall Street trader to Olympian. Yes, sis went to the Olympics. She has the tattoo and everything. She's an Olympian. And now a founder and a non-profit CEO. Idara is doing all of the things. Listen in as we talk about how she shifted her career, how she navigated those moves, and how she's always been flexible and open to just random opportunities that have transformed her life and the way that she views the world.
Sit with Lexi B podcast.
Idara, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be with you today. You are a multi-hyphenated, multi-fascinating human doing all the things with, I feel like, 85,000 lives already. And so before we get started about all the things that you do, and more importantly, the through line to why you do them and how it all does actually come together with your life purpose, what is in your coffee cup? What are you drinking with us today?
So my coffee cup today is Notchok. So this is actually my company, and I'm drinking dark milk chocolate hot cocoa. I know it's sunny outside. I know it's warm, but I still like my warm drinks. I start off my day with a warm beverage. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I will have either hot cocoa, and it's the summertime. I'm trying to say summertime fine. So I drink our sugar-free version of the cocoa during the summer.
And where are your people from? Where are you from? How did we get here?
So I was born and raised in New York, grew up in Brooklyn mostly. My people, my family, my heritage is Nigerian, so I see myself as a Nigerian American. I am actually Ibibio. I'm from Akwa Ibom State. Funny enough, a friend of mine who also is from the same place was on your podcast recently, Ime Umo. And so we're from the same place.
You have worked on Wall Street. You're an Olympian, which I would love to talk about that because there's not many Olympians in the world. It's a very small group of y'all. You are an entrepreneur. You are a woman. You are a Black human. So where did all this start? I guess looking back at 18-year-old Idara, what did she think she wanted to be when she grew up?
That's a great question. So 18-year-old me, I'm graduating a public school, high school in New York City, Brooklyn, New York, and set my sights off to Stanford. When I went to Stanford, I was on the track and field team. I thought I was going to be a physician, specifically an anesthesiologist. But that was my plan going in. And, you know, as they say, you make plans and God laughs at them.
Yep.
So during school, I had the opportunity to intern on Wall Street at Goldman Sachs my sophomore summer. And usually internships that transition into full-time offers is your junior year. So I had the fortunate chance of having 2 summers at Goldman. So the first summer was really getting acquainted with what is Wall Street, what is this big firm, international firm, what is investment banking, what is asset management, what is sales and trading, and all the things. And I got there and I realized that's where I wanted to be. So while I did study engineering at Stanford, and that was part of the plan, just like anyone, I would say who's a millennial that excelled in science and math, right? If you like science, you're good at it, be a doctor. I enjoyed helping people, but I knew I actually didn't want to treat patients. I knew that I couldn't handle the operating room and blood. And I close my eyes in gory movies. It's a lot. Yeah. So, which is why I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. I figured if I could just get through residency, medical school, all the things, anesthesiologists, they just work with the needles. They're not there to cut. They don't see all that, right? And it was analytical, which I, am very, very analytical, unfortunately, super type A and neurotic at times. So from that perspective, Wall Street just seemed to click all the boxes,
Right.
give me the desired salary I was looking for, the prestige I was looking for, and the work function that I was looking for. So for me, it was a no-brainer starting off my career. Unfortunately, around the time that I matriculated from school, 2009, that is in smack dab at the beginning of the great financial crisis.
Girl, we got to talk about it. Did you actually keep your job in '09? Because I know a lot of people, and we went to the same school and we overlap. So I'm sure you also know some of them as well that received job offers. We're talking September, October of senior year. And by May, June of senior year, that bank didn't exist. So they didn't have a job. So you kept your position.
Yeah. So a lot of the people that were affected were at banks that, ultimately failed.
Little brother. Yeah.
Fortunately, the bank I went to, Goldman Sachs, did not have that. So they were in a better position. The interesting thing about my particular candidacy, so I started off my career in equity research.
Right.
That junior year summer, I decided I got acquainted with the trading floor. I knew I wanted to be a trader, and I was like, this is my future. So I spent that summer networking, soft interviewing to get an offer on the trading desk, even though I was participating in the equity research summer internship. And I got the offer from equity research, which is where I was interning, and that is the normal path, and was essentially told to be grateful. And I was, as much as, I wanted this extra bonus, it's it's Operation Secure Employment, secure my future. And in the future, I can pivot, I can interview, I can do all the things. So I took the role, very, very grateful, very happy. And honestly, it probably was the best place for me to start my career anyway, because foundational skills that I received in that seat was understanding how to value companies, how to value businesses, to be very, very organized, to learn how to juggle multiple projects at once, speaking to clients, all the things. I ended up getting the opportunity to be a trader. I had to change first to get that, but I ended up moving to JP Morgan, moved down to Houston, was trading nat gas and powers. And then, life happened in a positive way for me too during that role where I became an Olympian. And the storylines are, you train, especially for track and field, you train for 4 years to make this, right? That's a misnomer, right? Because you're training, there's world championships every other year, you're still big meets, there's still professional meets, but it seems like the entire world starts to focus on track and field every 4 years.
Right.
And, but for me, my journey was very, very unique. In the sense that it took me 9 months to make the Nigerian Olympic team. 9 months of training. I had taken 3 years off since my last race at Stanford. I hadn't been on the track. I hadn't watched the track meet. I was done with the sport, right? I didn't end my collegiate career on a high note. My last meet, I got hurt. It was just crazy. So it hurt me, and I didn't step on the track. But when I went to Houston, I started training again, really to try to find my tribe. Tried and true method for me was to find a group of people that did the same things I did. And a lot of my closest friends were former teammates of mine throughout the years. So I figured, we can corral around the track, and stay in shape and be outside, then that's probably a good thing.
So I have a question for you. When on the track did it become not just we're hanging out and we're working out and laughing and talking to, no, this is real? Because as a person who's not an Olympian, I'm just going to assume that there has to be a point in an Olympian journey where it's no longer for ish and giggles. It's no longer just because we're out here. It's a deliberate strategic decision of, no, I'm training for something big.
I had two goals when I started trading. Chief goal was to make friends. The second goal was to run in one, like to get good enough to run in one international meet. I was part of a training group that had Olympic bound athletes in it. So not everyone in the training group was Olympic bound, but my two ultimate training partners, who were 400 runners, I was 400 hurdler, and the two women that I ended up training with that became my core training partners, they knew they were going to Olympics. It was a foregone completion. So my coach had way higher hopes than I ever had when I stepped on the track. He saw me, he's like, I had unlimited potential. So he essentially actually sought me out, because there's a little drama behind this I won't go into, but I started training with a group in Houston where one of my college teammates, she was training with them. So I started off with this team. There was some drama between the coaches, and I'm going to say I got poached to get to the team that the training group that I ultimately took to make the Olympic team. So in that drama, the new coach, he was kind of put that bug in my ear from the beginning, but I didn't catch it. So once you start to get around people who are training at a very high level, it's like, I can't be the last one every single time. I can't be this slow. And especially when your coach is unapologetic and calling you out in front of your entire training group that you're slow and that your form is trash and all the things.
This is so positive.
Right. Life of an athlete, right? You have all these different types of coaches. So because I am direct in nature, I welcomed his blunt honesty, right? Because at least I know when a compliment was given, I could trust it, right? And it worked. And then the answer is, when it really clicked, when I started to believe that maybe I could make this Olympic team or an Olympic team, not really for the 2012 year, but maybe like 2016, if I continue to train, was I, maybe about 5 months into training, I get called up, like coach arranges for me to run in this meet in Trinidad. So remember, that's my second goal. Trinidad International.
International race.
Like, yes. And get this, they were paying me appearance fee. I was like, little old me. I'm working full time, so this is not a money thing for me. I wasn't running. This wasn't my career. It was a side hobby, a hobby for me. It was an outlet for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to Trinidad. I'm going to run in this race. And it was a carnival sort of meet. So think kind of like a small pen relays or something. And this meet was held on a grass track. And you see that a lot in third world nations in the Caribbean. So, they will all have like their proper surface track for their national stadiums and such. But a lot of the times their high school, their collegiate, sometimes they will run on grass tracks because that's what they have. That's what they can afford. So a grass track, as you can imagine, the times are not going to be as fast. It's not a desirable surface.
Got it.
So I went out there. I win. And it's not the fact that I won. There are some women who were also running post-collegiate that were phenomenal in college. Like, I knew them. I followed them. I knew their stats. And they were in my heat, and I beat them. So that was one, like, boost of confidence. The second boost of confidence, which mattered the most, is I had run my fastest time in my entire life on a non-optimal surface. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, coach knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, I got some skills here. So at that point, I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Maybe I can do this. And that's when it really, really clicked in for me. But I wouldn't say that I was slacking beforehand. I just didn't take it as seriously until that point. At that point, when I started to see the fruit of the labor that I was putting in, I was like, okay, coach, let's go. What do I have to do? What do I have to eat? What do I need to drink? How much do I have to sleep? How many abs do I need to do every night? Let's go, right? So that was the point where personally it clicked in for me that now the two goals that I had a group of friends and my training partners, and I ran this international meet. So at this point, I've checked the boxes that why I started, right? And then, so it's time to elevate, right? Like once you hit the goal, now you move the goalpost. And the goalpost at this point was making the Nigerian Olympic team.
I know that you are a goal-oriented human, and it sounds like you set a goal and you achieve it. So even as a kid, I can see yourself setting a goal to get out of New York and go to Stanford, and you achieve it. You get to Stanford, you set a goal, I'm going to go intern at ABC Bank Institution, and you achieve it, right? You make that, you decide med school's not for me, which great decision, by the way, if you don't like blood. That was a good look on your part. And you go into banking, set this goal to work on this specific team, and you achieve it. You set this goal to be a trader, you achieve it. You set this goal to run again, and you achieve it. And you've now set a goal to be a writer, and your memoir comes out, in the fall, and you achieve it. We're going to talk about in a second your cocoa company. You set this goal and you achieve it. That's all fantastic. I think that we know so many people, specifically Black women, that have this drive to set this goal and they achieve it. My question for you is, do you take in the flowers as soon as you achieve it, or are you the kind of person that I achieved it, on to the next? Because I know in my life, what I'm trying to work on is sitting in the achievement before thinking of the new thing. And I just wanted to get your commentary on that.
So I'm a little bit of both. I would say I lean more in the on to the next. Even post Olympics, I was back at work as soon as I came back, you know what I mean? And work was gracious. They gave me the 2 months I needed to go to trials, go to training camp, and then go to the games. But I never even took a vacation post games. I was just like, I was so nervous about my career that I'm like, are they going to fire me for taking 2 months off? Not realizing like, well, I'm an Olympian. They had, paraded me around the company, and there were so many articles and stuff written about this Wall Street person who's at the games. And I didn't really savor the moment as much. I mean, there were great moments while I was there, but giving myself the flowers for the accomplishment, I think I have done over time, right? Like, it's funny, like as soon as everyone comes back, everyone gets the like Olympic tattoo. I didn't get mine till 7 years later, right? Not that it's a requirement, right? And however you feel about tattoos and things like that, but it's almost been like a growing thing for me to say, wow, I really did that. And I mean, as I get older, as I continue to work out, and I don't do track workouts anymore, but when I do train, I start to think, wow, I was up at 5, driving across town to lift, being at my desk by 7:30, back at the track sometimes till 9 p.m., and then doing it all over again. Insane. Like, what was I on? So I think now, as I've gotten older and life has happened around me, right? People have gotten sick. People have passed. People my age have passed. My friends have gotten sick, and like all the different things, and having life happen and seeing it, and just, remembering why you're doing the things that you're doing and to enjoy it, right? It's not just to click the things off the box. And that's actually it's a great question, because it's part of why I started my charity, because I wanted to see the legacy that I was creating and not just leave for people to talk about when I no longer was on this earth, right? So not to sound morbid, right? Because like we start thinking of their legacy at 30. But that was really part of the catalyst to say, I have the propensity to easily burn out because I do the most at all times. Like there's always 10 things. Even if I'm like, we're talking about 2 things, there's probably 10 things in the docket that are at some point in flux. And, I am probably a deaconess of the Nat ministry. And, I am team sleep, team rest, and recharging. And I'm not always great at it, but in part of that rest and recharge, I add reflection. And some of that eternal flower giving to make sure that, I'm trying to be grounded in everything that I'm doing. I know my why in what I'm doing, because that helps to propel me through hard times. And then also just to, feel at peace with things that I'm doing.
I actually want to challenge you for a second. I don't think that thinking about your legacy is morbid. And I think that people use different terminology for it, but I always tell folks, you should be working and living and existing and thriving with this idea of what are you going to leave on this earth when you leave, right? Because the one thing that will happen is you will be born and you will leave. Now, where you go after that is between you and your God, but you will be born and you will leave. It's interesting. A few days ago, I watched this documentary about Howard Ashman, who was the great legacy writer for all of these Disney movies, right? Like he wrote Under the Sea and he wrote Part of Your World and he wrote for, Beauty and the Beast. And before this documentary, I know who this man was. I'm not gonna lie. And then the documentary starts and I'm like, oh, I don't know who this man is, but I know all of your work. And there was the scene in the documentary where he went to Disneyland. And he was just walking around. And of course, because he's the guy behind the music, these kids don't know who he is. But he talks about how he went to Disneyland and he overheard these little girls singing Part of Your World somewhere in Disneyland near him. And he started crying because it was in that moment that he, as this grown man, realized, yo, what I do is so much bigger than me. And
yes,
I don't know when I'm going to die. But when I die, I have lived on, right? And so I say that to bring it back to you, because I want to hear more about your charity, because I do think that you thinking about your legacy and everyone actually thinking about their legacy is really important. And to be honest, if more people would think about their legacy, they may do less dumb stuff. Okay. There may be less dumb things in the world. But tell me about this charity, which have you as described as part of your legacy and what you are giving back to the people.
Yeah. So I launched the charity in 2017.
Okay.
And the genesis of the charity was about a year and a half leading up into the 2016 Olympics in Rio. I actually took a sabbatical this time around to train for the Olympic Games. So, for me to have done what I did in 2012 to make the team literally within 9 months of training, I was just like, what can I do if I'm not working? I'm totally focused on it. Unfortunately, I did not have the poetic ending and I got hurt right before trials. So I ended up not going to the Rio Olympics. But when I was done, I knew the Rio Olympics was going to be the end, irrespective of how it ended.
Got it.
And I wanted to continue to stay connected to, one, the African continent, Nigerian women, and really find a way to collectively put together all the charitable work that I had been doing over the years. Like I was spread out on so many different boards, helping out, volunteering, and just doing things without public knowledge or credit. And that wasn't the driver, but I wanted to streamline a lot of the activities and the projects that I was working on. And then along with that, thinking about legacy. And my experience going to trials in Nigeria, competing in Africa, across Africa, in the lead up and then during the different track seasons, I just kept on seeing a lot of the same things and a lot of the same needs. And some of those needs is just, especially I saw with some of my Nigerian-based teammates, is that, and you see this here in America, so this is not a Nigerian-specific thing, but a lot of times when a student or child has been tapped with athletic talent, it's as if academics goes to the wayside.
Yeah.
And in Nigeria, what I saw and witnessed was exponentially worse because there wasn't a fall safe. For me, when I made the Olympic team, I was working on Wall Street. I was a trader. I was a well-paid individual, right? Where I was paying to be on the track. You know what I mean? it was a net negative to my bottom line or to my savings account to participate in track and field. Whereas, a lot of my teammates, they were living off of prize money, they were living off of per diem and training grants and things like that. And unfortunately, every Olympic cycle, Nigeria tends to make the headlines because money will not be paid. The kit won't be there on time. There's just always drama on drama, unfortunately. And I just saw, and it broke my heart. I saw some of my teammates just having to deal with this and knowing that they are their family's lifeline, right? And I was just like, how do I effectively help these women? How do I effectively help women like me whenever I'm in these spaces, especially in athletic spaces, where people are like, wow, you do so much. Multi-hyphenate wasn't a word 10 years ago or the word that we used, but it's just like, I want my daughter to be like you. Can you mentor her? And like all the things. So I started to think, what are the things I feel make me successful? And how do I create programming around that? And I kept on coming back to the same three things: education, athletics, entrepreneurship. And so that's how we got the name Let Girls, we focus on girls, read, run, grow. So read, education, run, athletics, grow, entrepreneurship, with, a heavy focus on agriculture because we're focused in Africa. So at the onset, we had specific ideas around programming. And so some of the program that still exists today is our sport and STEAM camp, which I'm really proud of. I feel like that is I coined it the ultimate sport and STEAM experience, but the title is Camp Next Gen. And so essentially we're focused on the next generation of student athletes, really, and encouraging them to pursue athletics as well as academics until life forces them to choose one. And what I mean when life forces you to choose one, I mean, if someone's paying you an obscene amount of money to continue your craft, you'd be a fool in certain places to say no to that, right?
So looking back on your whole career, right? Again, from being the interim baby trader at Goldman Sachs to now owning your own cocoa company. And we'll definitely put the details of that company in the description so people can buy the cocoa, because the streets say it's good. That's what the street. What is the through line, do you think, of this career of yours and of the things that you do? Because they're all very different, but I know there's a through line, and the through line's not just like because you showed up, right? What do you think is the actual through line of how we got here?
So the through line really is to change the life of girls, change the life of African girls, right? I have a burden for African girls. I mean, I still am on boards here in America, but this is a passion and around education, athletics, and entrepreneurship. They'll always be my brand, whether it's for the charity or personally. Those are things that I feel I've been successful. Those are things that continue to pay dividends forever. And furthering that goal is the through line. So I think even though we can start in my career, the charity is kind of like the centerpiece where everything, all the spokes come off from.
It's center, yeah.
So we have that mission to build up the African girl through education, athletics, and entrepreneurship. We have the programming, we're building the school. So the question became, how do we fund school? So generally, like any other charity, we pass around the offering bucket each and every year for all of our programs, right? So we have generous and loyal supporters, some corporate sponsorships at times as well that have been helpful. But as you can imagine, a school is a very large undertaking. And to have the burden of paying teachers to be from that offering plate is very, very nerve-wracking for me. Fundraising is difficult in any way, shape, or form. So trying to be thoughtful about it is how we landed at Notchok. Pulling from my Wall Street life, pulling from my business acumen. I always wanted to sell a commodity product. Remember, I was a commodities trader. That would empower the school, that would fund the school, fund the entity. So the question is like, why a commodity? A commodity is something that is ubiquitous, you need it. you always buy it, right? The branding can change the product, but for the most part, you always need it. And I wanted a product that we would sell irrespective of what we did with the money. So everyone, I'm sure, remembers Tom shoes. They still exist. Buy one, give one. That was their give back campaign. I probably had 2 or 3 pairs of Toms over the course of my life. So I feel good. I gave it 3 pairs of shoes, or they gave 3 pairs of shoes because of my purchase there. But like, how many pairs of Tom shoes can I buy? Not much. Right. So in terms of the business model of Toms, either if I was buying Toms for the good, right, then that means I have to continue buying Toms forever. But if I was just buying Toms because I really like the shoes, that's a better proposition for what all the people who need shoes or whatever good is happening. So Coco fit a lot of check boxes for us. One being, this is a product that people want and desire each and every year, irrespective of if you're giving to charity or not, right? Like, if the cocoa tastes good to you and you want cocoa and it's in your price range, you'll buy it. You don't go to Starbucks and say, or wherever you get your cocoa from, and say, what are you doing with my money when I buy it? No, you like it. You like the taste, right? So every winter, every cold winter season, every holiday season, people are looking for hot cocoa. So it's a comfort food. So that it checked that box. I wanted a product that was also indigenous to Nigeria, where the school exists, right, or will exist. And Nigeria is the 4th largest exporter in cocoa worldwide. So that's that box. So we can also teach entrepreneurship through this product, right? So you see, like, the connection is evident. And then finally, we wanted to have a way to showcase African culture, Nigerian culture, the masquerade culture that is native to my tribe. And you see that on the packaging, and just really like further culture in this global marketplace that we're in. We're in an Afrobeats era, right? So everyone is very pro-Africa, pro-West Africa. You know, you see the diaspora flock to Ghana every December, Deci December.
Yeah.
Themselves, which we love, right? So why not expand that, right? Why not expand the education, the connectivity, and just appreciation for some of this culture, you know? And that's where a little offshoot, I created a children's book that actually depicts all of that, depicts that masquerade culture for a child's audience, but it's still telling that same story. So, you know, and then just being I always kind of chase entrepreneurship and side hustles and side things throughout my entire life. But it just made perfect sense because it all came together. Like, Coco was the perfect product. The space hadn't been innovated in so many years. It's a product that I enjoy. It's a product that most people enjoy. It's a product that I was able to make healthier, right? It is a vegan product. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, all natural, no artificial preservatives, and less sugar than your common household brand, but still delicious, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was a way to tap into creative juices that I had let slip away in years and years and being on Wall Street. It was a way to kind of tap back into the commodity space because I don't know if you've seen, but cocoa prices have been insane over the last 18 months. And so being able to tap back into or use that trading acumen, business development acumen, and, you know, pitching and sales and marketing, all the things, while still being able to do good and build the school, right? So it doesn't work in parts, it works all together. So I tell people, you know, if there was no school, there'd be no cocoa. I didn't wake up and say, I want to be a cocoa farmer, or I want to be a cocoa business owner. It wasn't that, right? I was at a Wall Street desk day in and day out and launched this during the pandemic, right? So off the side of my desk, you know? And so it's just, at the end of the day, the primary focus is how do we efficiently and effectively give these girls the best education that they can have in their location. I'm a product or progeny of the African brain drain, and I don't want to perpetuate that, right? You have lots of programs. I don't knock them because they're beautiful. My parents came over to America for, PhDs and higher education and such. So America has been great to me and my family. But Nigeria suffers, Africa suffers, diaspora suffers if getting a visa and leaving is the strategy. If all the good crop and all the good soil is taken out of the ground, what do you have left? Right. So
and so I'll argue that that's the issue with the motherland right now, because that's what non-Black people have been doing with Africa for centuries, is taking, draining resources.
Yeah. And I mean, so there's that aspect of it, which, that can be a whole, or it is a whole issue and series on its own. But we don't do our nations any favors when the best and brightest leave, right? And so when the best and brightest leave, everybody else suffers. And I get it, right? It's the same thing you have with, people leaving the hood, people of color leaving the hood, having that tug of war with gentrification and things like that, where if everybody leaves, then all that's left behind is not great for everyone involved. And communities work best when you have a spectrum, where you have a distribution of the haves and the have-nots, the most intelligence and, average intelligence and all the different things. So variety is necessary for community. But if you take out, the creme de la creme, there's nothing positive that comes with what is left. And that's what we're trying to help slow down or do our part to, invoke a little bit of change.
So I'm going to ask you our final question, which is, please reintroduce yourself. So who is Idara?
I am Idara Otu, an Olympian, entrepreneur, founder, author, speaker, and advocate.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.